everybody, welcome back to my storytelling channel. Happy April! Today I am here to read chapter 3 of Breach of Faith. I hope that you will enjoy this story. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
I've been cynical, oh so cynical. Never thought somebody could save me from another fall, from another scar. But I'm all healed up, standing steady. I couldn't see colors, it was all in gray, till you showed me every shade. Now I feel like summer on a rainy day, like there's nothing left in my way. So if I ever lose my mind, I'll be...
The moon hung like a pale lover, missing the embrace from his companion, as Fathiyya stared at it from a balcony where she stood, missing the embrace of Jacobi. She felt as pale as the moon tonight. Earlier at dinner, the king had announced that he would be heading to Lady Zavera's chamber, and she felt for the first time a release of happiness. But it turned sour when he ordered Jacobi to be on guard at the door. She would be alone. It had been a few nights since they parted from the bedsheets, and she missed him deeply. She never knew the power of missing the body of another could be this way. The king had never given her the pleasure to do so. She heard the door open behind her, and she turned, feeling a hike of energy surge in her heart, but it soon died down when she realized it was the king who had entered. She felt like a traitor as she fought against her emotions and joined him in the chamber. He looked sad, almost unlike himself, as he sat on the edge of the bed and extended his hand to her. "My king, what brings you to my chambers?" she asked as she took his hand. He pulled her into his arms and held her, inhaling her scent, and then he looked up at her with a glazed expression that questioned everything inside her. "My lady, I have been a terrible husband to you. I have returned to be in your arms tonight." "And what about Lady Zavera?" He let out a long breath. "She can gloat tonight in her chambers. Come, undress, join me in bed. I am exhausted and long for sleep, but perhaps after I have spilled my seed inside you." Fathiyya pulled away suddenly, and he paused, looking at her. She instantly regretted her choice of action and tried to recover by putting her arms around his neck. "My king, if you are tired, I understand." "What is different about you, my lady?" he asked, eyeing her. Smiling, she replied, "Nothing, my lord. I am your queen, as I always have been." "No, there's something that is different. I can't put my fingers on it, but you do not seem as your usual self. Perhaps I have been ignoring you more than I should have. Come here." He pulled her into his arms and kissed her. She felt her heart go silent, and she couldn't will her heart to respond. Her husband, if he knew anything, kept on going, and she shut her eyes, pretending her husband was another by the name of Jacobi. When his hands hiked up her skirt, she let out a breath of uncertainty, but her husband mistook it for pleasure and quickened his movements, pushing her onto the bed. "My lady, it has been too long that I have left you alone. Tonight, you shall be mine again, and I will brand you for the world to see." Midnight hour was upon, and Jacobi was released from duty as he hurried down the gravel road to the entrance of the castle walls. His heart was thumping as he made his way down the corridor of chambers lit with torches, and found himself before the queen's door. As he raised his hand to turn the knob, he heard the sound of the king's snoring. He froze and positioned himself to look as if he was on guard outside the door. Why was the king here? Hadn't he announced he was going to Lady Zavera's? Anger, jealousy, roamed through his veins as he let out the breath he'd been holding. Normally, the king would not sleep through the night with any woman, the queen even. He stepped aside, hoping he would emerge and he could enter. But as the hour ticked on, the king remained snoring inside beside the queen. When the morning light hit, Jacobi jerked from the dark corner he'd been hiding in and stood as the door to the queen's chamber opened. The king exited, fully dressed and yawning, as he saw her close the door. He waited until the king disappeared down the hall before he made his way to the door and knocked. She opened and he pushed inside without uttering a word. When he saw her, his inside exploded with jealousy and rage that he wanted to chase after the king. Her lips were ravished as if kissed all night, and her neck sported tiny little love bites. He reached over and pushed her hair out of the way, examining the branding the king had left behind. He shut his eyes and dropped his hands as he turned away, unable to look at her. "I thought the king was with Lady Zavera," Jacobi said. She came to wrap her arms around him from behind. "Apologies, Jacobi, for I thought the same too. But I believe the two must have argued, so he came to me. He would not leave." He turned and gazed into her eyes. "No matter. I cannot hold anger at him, for he has the right to touch you. But I desire only your hand. Last night," she whispered softly, "last night, it was not the same." "Was he gentle?" Shaking her head, her eyes filled with tears, and she replied, "No, no, he was not gentle." Jacobi cursed and pulled her into his arms, holding her, caressing her back. "If I had the power to remove him from our sight, I would." She pulled away and looked at him. "I cannot take the chance of him returning to my chambers, but I know that Lady Zavera will be throwing a fit today. I must make sure he feels sympathy for her, and perhaps he'll stop coming to my chambers." Jacobi bent down and kissed her gently. "I will send you some salve to put on those lips." When Fathiyya made it down for breakfast, Lady Zavera was sitting with her face darkened and her eyes rolling near the back of her head. Fathiyya had made sure to put her hair up in a bun so her love bites were clearly showing. She had to put on an act now, and it was time to play the villain. As she sat down, Lady Zavera's eyes locked gazes with her neck. "How inappropriate of a queen to be showing such despicable displays of intimacy," Lady Zavera said with a sneer. Fathiyya smiled, and she picked up her glass of juice to drink. "How inappropriate of a concubine to think such dirty thoughts of the queen. You think, just because he came to you last night, that you have won? He only came to you after he was done with me. And how many rounds did he complete with you? I believe I had not 1 ounce of sleep, Lady Zavera. He spent the entire night with me, and the sheets were quite ruined this morning." Lady Zavera bit down her lip before speaking. "You should be thanking me, my queen, for I was the one who suggested he come to you." "My deepest gratitude to you, Lady Zavera. For now that the king has returned, I shall keep a hold on him for a bit. You do not mind, do you? You have had him for the past year, although I do worry what lonely nights would do to you." She stood and let out a long breath. "Excuse me, my queen. I've lost my appetite. The company here is more sour than the food itself." As she left, Fathiyya felt her heart sink, as she wondered how she would continue this charade. The sound of the drum roll outside had her on her feet instantly, and she dashed out to the front entrance where Jacobi was already on one knee before the king, and he was pacing the hall angrily. What had happened? "Anyone who dares to strike war upon my kingdom shall see the end of life itself," Taryn said as he slammed his fist into the other hand. Then he called out Jacobi's name and he stood up. "Gather your best men and stake a watch on the grounds tonight. If anyone dares to enter, blood will be spilled." Fathiyya felt herself shaking, and when Jacobi turned and their eyes met, she felt a sense of loss hit her. He only nodded toward her way and ordered the men-at-arms to follow him. "Take the queen back to her chamber, now!" the king cried. As she turned to catch her husband's gaze, Arabella took her elbows and began leading her toward the chamber corridor. She quickly picked up her pace and rounded toward the north where the balcony gave her an oversight of the grounds below. Once there, she saw Jacobi leading the men out on his horse, and the tears that pricked her eyes made the hollowness inside her tighten even more. "Return safely to me," she whispered. The dungeon was dark when Lady Zavera entered, and she found Ubay sitting mixing a dark liquid into the pot as he began to stir. She closed the door and hurried over, stepping over a black banana peel. He looked up at her, and a smile graced his face. "My lady, what brings you down here?" You were given instructions to await my order. You told me you would wait until after I delivered the baby, before you strike war upon the land. Why are you going back on your words? She asked. He looked up at her for a moment before he continued stirring. My lady, war is not a subject for those pretty lips of yours to be speaking about. If we men were to let women rule over the world, we would be dancing when the rain came. Your duty is to birth heirs to the king. Do not speak to me like I am an imbecile. You and I both know any child I deliver will never be heir to the throne. Unless you can make me queen, I have no right. He put his spoon down, and then he stood up, walking toward her with a dark glare. Have you forgotten your purpose in this? Your purpose was to strike the king down with your beauty and plant an heir inside his palace walls, where one day he would be in my control. The boy must not be of his blood, and you have succeeded in carrying a child who is from the outside. Return to your chambers, my lady, and wait for my order. She reached out a hand and held him. And if you defy your words, smiling, Ubayd said, I never do. You will just have to trust me as you did when you laid with me. Now go, before someone sees you and our plans are ruined. Jacobi felt the hairs on his neck rise, and he didn't feel safe. The ground was quiet, but in a way where it tested him. This wasn't supposed to be happening. This wasn't how his night was going to be. He had somewhere else he wanted to go, but the quick movement caught his attention, and he shifted his hand to the sword on his waist. He listened, and he knew it right away, running a feet against the cold, hard gravel. Strike! He cried. The men-at-arms stood and immediately lit up torches. Indeed, a group of invaders dressed in black appeared before them, each one holding a long, curved sword. You dare to enter the king's grounds? You must be waiting for a death sentence, Jacobi said. Arrest them and throw them into the dungeon. When Jacobi arrived into the dungeon, Ubayd was standing with a crooked half-grin on his face. The intruders were all tied and thrown into the prison one by one. He turned around to Ubayd and looked the man up and down. Orders by the king are for these men to live. We need to know who sent them. Yes, Jacobi, Ubayd replied. Jacobi turned and signaled for his men to follow him out of the dungeon. But he turned around and found Ubayd staring at him with a grin that made his blood run cold. As he quickly rushed through the hallway leading up to the stairs above, his only thought was of the queen. Something was off, and he felt it was just beginning. Fathiyya slipped the lavender nightgown on as she sat down, and Arabella began to brush her long hair. It had been a night of uncertainty, and the fear she held inside her was beginning to break her heart. She had not heard news of anything, and the drums would play every few hours. The king had not summoned her and ordered 2 guards to be placed outside her door to keep her from leaving. She was on edge, and her mind was against her. But when she heard the footsteps coming toward her way, she stood and hurried to the door, opening only to find she was met with disappointment. A servant stood there with a gentle smile on his face, and she couldn't hide the grief on her. The king summons you into the hall, my queen. She lit up and decided it was perhaps not a loss after all. Arabella put a cloak over her shoulders, and they walked down the corridor to where she found Lady Zavera was already there with her servant. A few more housemaids, and the king sat at his throne holding his head in his hand. As she entered, she heard the sound of soldiers coming in, and then Jacobi appeared. Her heart lifted, and she felt tears prick her eyes as he took one knee before the king. My king, he said, Ubayd was under strict orders to keep the prisoners alive. However, word has been sent that all of them have taken their own lives with a single pill. Taryn slammed his hand on the table and stood up. Bring him here! Jacobi signaled, and Ubayd was brought in roughly and thrown on the ground before the king. He had suffered beatings, and Lady Zavera came forward, distress written on her face. My king, is this how we treat our own people? She asked. Taryn turned to her and glared. Silence, woman, and know your place. He looked down at Ubayd. Speak. He groaned and bowed. My king, please be gentle with me. I did not know they were carrying pills underneath their tongues. It is true that I was given orders from Jacobi to keep them alive, but I thought if I tortured them a bit they would speak." "You thought you could do as you wish when you were not given orders?" "Who do you think you are?" Taryn shouted. "I deserve to die, my king," Ubayd cried. At that very moment, the drums began to pound outside, and Fathiyya felt her body shake. She reached out to Arabella, and Taryn stood reaching for her hand, pulling her toward him. The sound of the arrows hissing outside had the men-at-arms pulling their swords out. "Protect the king and queen! Men, to the death!" Jacobi cried. As he rushed out, Fathiyya let out a small whimper and held onto her husband's arms. It was then that she noticed Ubayd and Zavera were both missing. "My king, where is Lady Zavera and Ubayd?" The smell of the dungeon made Zavera gag as Ubayd held her hand, pulling her along the darkened hallways. Rats were squeaking from beneath their feet as he rushed to the hidden room, where he opened the door and pushed her inside. He lit up the torches, and Zavera looked around as she wrapped her arms around herself. He removed his own cloak and put it around her shoulders. "Where are we?" she asked. "Somewhere no one knows. You'll be safe here for the time being." "Wait," she said as she came toward him. "What's going on? What happened?" He let out a disgusted breath. "Those pitiful warriors, a waste of my money, and they dared to speak against me. I had no choice but to rid of them before they could tarnish my name against the king. The plan has been destroyed, and the men your father found would probably go against him." Zavera dropped her jaw open, and she shook her head in disbelief. "No, but you promised me that nothing of that sort would happen. Why would they turn against us?" Ubayd chuckled and drew a book from the shelves. He opened it to the middle pages and then looked up at her. "Greed is a powerful emotion, my lady. What you have is never enough. You must have the entire world. Your dear father wanted more than he could handle, and has now chewed his way to the pit of the dragon's belly." Zavera frowned, tears pricking her eyes, as she reached out to touch his hand. He looked up at her. The gentle eyes she'd fallen in love with were now holding nothing but a cold stare. She felt unsafe suddenly, and she looked around, where she worked up the courage to speak. "Ubayd, take me back to the king's palace." Smiling, he replied, "Why are you in such a hurry to return to his arms? It is not as if it's his child you are carrying in your womb. Only here will you be safe." "Take me back!" she cried. I am too afraid of what the future holds to do this." He moved toward her, and he pointed a finger at her. "Are you pulling out of your promise? Just like your dear old father?" She felt the hot tears stain her cheeks. "Where is my father?" "He is dancing in the heavenly skies now, my lady. And if you are not careful, you will be too. But not before I take that child from you." Her hands fell to her swollen belly, and fear rose in her throat. "No, you cannot take my child from me." "Why not? It is not the king's blood, and he will surely execute him on sight. Only with me is he safe. On the morrow, you will be sent to a hidden temple where you will be cared for until you give birth. Once the child is safely in my arms, I shall return you to the king." Zavera shoved at him. "And what makes you think the king will want me after all that? The plan was not for this, Ubayd. You have underestimated me when you sought to rid of my father. I knew I would be dealing with a crooked man, so I told my plans to my chambermaid. If I ever go missing, she will be revealing every single detail to the king." Ubayd's eyes widened, and he stepped forward. "How much do you think you can mislead me? A mere woman like you, whose purpose is to bathe my feet. Do you honestly think I would believe a single word you say?" Zavera felt her heart shake as she whispered, "Try it, and we shall see if you survive another night." Thank you for tuning in. Chapter 4 will be out shortly.
I've been cynical, oh so cynical. Never thought somebody could save me from another fall, from another scar. But I'm all healed up, standing steady. I couldn't see colors, it was all in gray, till you showed me every shade. Now I feel like summer I'm alright again, like a child again. Now the universe is a wonder. I don't care where we go, don't care what we do, as long as you're with me and I'm with you. I couldn't see colors, it was all in gray, till you showed me every shade. Now I feel like summer on a rainy day, like there's nothing left in my way. So if I ever lose my mind, I'll be fine, 'cause you're my silver lining. And if my world comes crashing down, I'll be fine, 'cause you're my silver lining. Yeah, you shine like a ray of light, cutting darkness out of my life. I don't care where we go, I don't care what we do, just as long as I'm right there beside you. I won't ever let go, I won't ever be cruel, like the world was to me before I found you. So if I ever lose my mind, I'll be fine, 'cause you're my silver lining. And if my world comes crashing down, I'll be fine, 'cause you're my silver lining. I'll be fine, 'cause you're my silver lining. I'll be fine, 'cause you're my silver lining.